What's going on, guys? Sam here. I got an awesome video today on testing ads the right way. But what you really should be saying is testing variables the right way. So in today's video, we're literally going to go over everything you need to know about testing ads the right way for clothing brands. This is my 5th video on YouTube actually, but it's my 5th out of like 40th video planned for YouTube. So if you're new here, please subscribe. I know I probably have like 2 subscribers at this point when you're seeing this video, but this is all just the absolute best content I could come up with. And it's all based on stuff I actually use, being the 8-figure marketer I am at only 17 years old. There's definitely a lot to it, but yeah, let's jump into it. So this is probably what you're doing right now. You're wasting money. You probably get a creative, you put a sales campaign up, and you publish the ads and just throw shit at the wall and see if it sticks. This doesn't work. There's no process here. There's no testing process. You're really just seeing if the ROAS is what you want. And you're not really testing variables. You're just testing ads is the more generic, broad way to say it, is testing ads. So we're going to be testing variables. And I'm going to show you guys how to do that. So we're going to start with a detailed creative breakdown. I'm going to show you an ad creative that I've actually run before myself, and it did about $60,000 in 2 months. And this is a creative for one of the brands that I've worked with in the past, still working with right now at this current time. And then we're going to go over metrics and campaign structure. This is super duper important if you want to know variables, metrics, how to structure a testing campaign. We're going to go over all of that. So yeah, let's get right into it. I want to start with this creative here. It's a video creative. As you can see, there's the audio thing here. It's not going to play the video since it's a screenshot, but I do want to talk about this a bit. Apologies if I leaked anyone's usernames. Yes, here's the brand. I would love for you guys to go check them out. They're doing fantastic right now. So we have a few variables here that I pointed out. All right, first we've got the subject, which is the main thing in the frame. For this one, it's a hero shot, which means there's a model with a product on, and there's some props in it, right? We got the roses, we've got the bed. So this is all kind of planned out to be this way. It's supposed to match this aesthetic. So that's kind of what we did there. Then we've got the sub-subject, which is my, stupid way of saying what is also in here that is supposed to draw your attention after you see the main thing. So the main thing you're supposed to see is this, but the thing you're supposed to see after, the first thing you're supposed to look at next is this part here. It's the on-screen text. So the on-screen text is a variable that I love to use because it gives a lot of information and it draws some interest. So this is part of the hook actually, and it's basically just saying when we're dropping, what the product is. It's a blouse and skirt, and this is the name of the set. So this is kind of just some information here, but it's also showing what the information is about. We've also got the audio, right? Music is super duper important. I know it's muted here just because I pulled the screenshot up on my computer here, but yeah, there is some themed music for the aesthetic in the background. You can see in the things here: coquette aesthetic, soft girl aesthetic, romantic style, soft fashion. So they're just, adding some information there as well. And that's part of the primary copy. So primary copy is interesting because when you're running a Facebook ad or a meta ad in general, you get lots of variations, which means that you could run 5 different variations that are AI generated, or you could run 5 variations that are AI, 5 of your own, or 10 of your own if you decide to fully edit and redo the AI variations. So this is useful because you can test different variations of your primary copy, and that is going to influence a few different things that we will talk about soon. So yeah, and then we've got the comment section here. That's not really relevant in terms of variables. It is social proof, so if you count that for an ad, yes, it definitely helps to see some social proof, but mainly for ads, we're just talking about the creative testing here, so we're not really using social proof. So I've got just a little bit down here to go over. This should be actually a pretty quick video, but just going over this creative, there's a few things that I want to point out since we can't actually watch the video. Actually, you know what? Let's go watch the video. So the cool thing about being on YouTube is my channel. I can do whatever the hell I want. So I just decided last second here, I'm actually going to show you guys the creative. So I pulled up the tab here. This is kind of the whole video here. It's just going to play through a few times while I talk about it. So you can see here, it's very lively. She's like playing with her hair or whatever for the first 2 seconds while you can read the subject. And that's interesting because that adds a little bit of depth to it, right? Instead of just showing a picture of her wearing it, she's actually doing something in it, which adds to the aesthetic a bit. She's holding the roses, the way she's sitting, and then it goes right to the product. So it's showing you the blouse and the skirt here. And this is kind of just the idea is it's showing you a lot of different angles. Now, could they have gotten a little bit better with this content? Maybe, right? Like it's showing the same angle 5 different times and just cutting up the clips. Yes, but it is effectively getting the point across that we want to show the product. It's a flat lay video. So this did a wonderful job, performance wise. I think it returned like a 9x return on ad spend. So really nice creative here, super quick and replays a lot. So they don't have to watch the whole thing to get to the beginning again. Instead of scrolling up and down to try and refresh it. So this is really nice here. And then as you can see, people are showing interest, what size is available, what size is it available in, and they're talking about the sizes and stuff. So you can see that there's actual genuine interest here. So this is just one creative here that I love to show because there's a lot of really good parts to this. Got a lot of likes as well, but more so it got a lot of sales, and so that's what people care about. You'll see here that there's a lot of the people that are supposed to be seeing this, that are in that coquette soft girl aesthetic, they are seeing it because they are commenting on this video. And so that's really the key here. You could see here there's people like just talking in the comment section. Like these are good signs that this ad is hitting the right audience, right? But it's also getting, it's completing the objective of sales. It's getting the point across by showing the product, showing the aesthetic, and then talking a little bit about what it is. And then obviously the CTA here is pre-order opens, blah, blah, blah. So this was more of a, pre-drop creative that we ran as engagement based. So that's why we do have a lot of comments here. So yeah, I just want to show you guys this creative, but let's jump back onto our Miro board. So jumping back onto Miro here, we do have a lot to go over. So I'm going to jump right into it. We're going to start down here with ad metrics. Okay. So I put 10 in here, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. So 10 of my most important metrics. I thought I had 12, but I actually only have 10. And some of these are custom here. You probably don't have TSR, VTR. You probably know the rest of these though, because these are all standard metrics that you can find in the ads manager. So VSR is actually, VTR is something you can find in there, but I kind of made a custom metric because I like to measure it myself. So let's talk about a few of these. Obviously, these are in no specific order, but ROAS is definitely going to be your most important metric across any campaign. It's your return on ad spend. So it just determines your profitability, tells you if you should keep running the ad or not. It's a pretty simple one. If you don't know what ROAS is, you are well too new to you are very, very new, and you probably shouldn't be watching this video. So make sure you know what ROAS is. Conversion rate, or conversion percent, is a better way to put it. It can be used to measure your offer's effectiveness. So I have a star here, and I have a star on a couple other ones too, and that's because it can be used for a specific purpose listed, but that's not the only thing it can be used for. And it also could be wrong about that. That's the thing about testing variables and ad metrics, is that everything in this is kind of a soft science. So you could be wrong about a lot of things here. So I usually use conversion rate to test an offer's effectiveness or test a price point. That's a really easy way to figure out, if the creative does a good job showing the product and the ad does a good job getting people to the site and to checkout. If they're not actually buying it, but they're getting to checkout, there's obviously something wrong there. It might just be the shipping time. It could be the price point. It could be the offer itself. Maybe it's just not strong enough to push them off the diving board there. If you don't know the diving board analogy, you definitely need to go watch one of my other videos. I talk about it a lot, but it's kind of just a first-time buyer analogy that basically says, when I was a little kid and I went to my community pool, I would go up and down the diving board and I would run all the way up to the edge, and then I just wouldn't jump. I was too afraid to jump. I just need someone to come up behind me and push me off the diving board. But as soon as they pushed me off and I finally jumped in, I was like, wow, that's super fun. I'm going to do that again and again and again. So once you trust the process and you know what the outcome is, right? Once a customer trusts your brand and knows what the outcome is when they buy something, they're going to keep coming back over and over if it's a positive experience. So I use the diving board analogy because your offer is basically that push over the edge, that push off the diving board to get you into that positive experience, right? Just because you have a really good product doesn't mean people are going to buy it because they don't necessarily trust your brand with their money. So conversion rate or conversion percent is a really good way to measure that. That's why it's kind of up here as well. And then I have CPM. So again, a lot of people argue with me on this, but I think I know it better than most people. CPM is going to be the volume of ads in your niche. So CPM is cost per milli. I think that's how you say the word. but it's essentially just a dollar value, and it's the cost per 1,000 impressions. And impressions are how many times your ad has been placed versus reach, which is how many people have actually seen your placements. Reach is an estimated metric. Impressions is a hard metric, which means Meta does not estimate it. It's absolutely, solid as stone, right? Like how many impressions you get, how many you pay for is exactly what it is. So that's why CPM is a really accurate metric to go off of. So it's basically how expensive it is to reach your niche, okay? And it can be used to measure how well your audience perceives your creatives, or more so if you're actually reaching your audience. Because if you're reaching your audience the right way and your ads are doing well, you're going to scale them. And if you're scaling them, then your CPM will be lower because you're outbidding your competitors. That's a more advanced concept with bidding, but I will have a video on bidding coming very, very soon, because a lot of people just don't understand how ads work and how placements work. So I'm going to talk about that in another video. But CPM is important because it basically just tells you, do you have a lot of competition with ads right now? Are your ads hitting the right audience? And if not, what do you need to do to change it? Is it the targeting, right? Or is it more so just your creative isn't doing well in front of, a certain audience? You could be too broad, you could be too niche, and that could be why your CPM is too high. Obviously, a lower CPM is better. It means your delivery is more efficient than most brands. Next up is frequency. So frequency is an estimated metric, and I love frequency because it's really just a phenomenal metric to use when you're trying to measure ad fatigue. And that's about the best thing you can use it for. So it's basically just in, definition, it's the average number of times someone sees your ad. And it's very useful to measure ad fatigue when compared to other metrics. So if you compare frequency to conversion rate, if your frequency is really high, so people are seeing your ads a lot, but they're not buying anything, that's a clear sign that your offer isn't good, especially if you factor in your click-through rate. If your click-through rate is really high, which means people are actually looking at your, they're getting to your website, they're looking at your products, and they're even getting to checkout, then they're still not buying, but the frequency is high. That means there's definitely an offer problem. So usually it's not like a two metric comparison, one versus the other to see what the issue is. It's usually a combination of metrics to really figure out what the problem is. So I like to mention frequency because it's absolutely one of my favorite metrics in the ads manager. And even though it's an estimated metric, which means it's not always correct, it does give you a lot of very, very useful information when you're measuring ad fatigue. So that's that there. And then we have UCTR, which is basically just code for unique click-through rate. And I like UCTR because it's better than normal CTR or gross CTR, whatever you want to use. It's just better because it's your unique link click-through rate. And it's the best metric, in my opinion, but probably most of the better advertisers will agree with me. It's the best metric for cold ads to measure the impact of your creative. Because it's a unique link click, that means that it's someone's first time. It's a new person, and it's their click-through rate, which is important because there's no repeat click-through, which means that it's all new people. So it's going to reveal fatigue over time. It's going to kind of show you if you're struggling over time, because if this is lower, it means your ads are just kind of people are seeing them a lot, and not many new people are interested in clicking. But what I will really show you is how well you're doing in front of a brand new person. Are your creatives captivating enough, right? Are they getting that click right away? So I love UCTR. I've been using it for years, actually. I'm like 2 years now on the dot here that I've been using UCTR versus normal CTR. Again, probably an estimated metric, so I would be careful with that as well. Actually, I think for a fact it is an estimated metric. Frequency definitely is. CPM is not. Conversion rate is not. And then ROAS is definitely not. All right, let's go to thumb stop ratio. So this basically just measures your hook's effectiveness. I like this one because it's basically just the first 3 seconds of your video. Is it enough to, it measures the hook, right? So are people staying past the first 3 seconds? That's literally all it is. This is a thumb stopping. Does it stop them from scrolling to the next video? So if this is a high, if this ratio is good, typically higher, then, your hook is pretty good and you should keep using a hook like that. If it's not, then you probably need a new hook here. So I like TSR because it's a very, it's almost like a niche metric in the world of ads because not many people use it the right way or use it at all. And it's really, really good when you're communicating with a brand owner and asking them for, some revisions on their ad creatives. So I like this one here as well. And then we have AOV. Everyone knows this one, which is average order value. But this is actually really important in the context of ads because it's going to give you a really good idea of how much people trust your brand, right? This is pretty simple. If people trust your brand more, they're going to spend more money, which means your average order value value is going to be higher. I really, really like AOV for an ad metric because it's going to give you a lot of information about your offer, but also, how well your other booster trust campaigns are doing, especially when they're just engagement campaigns. They're not really geared towards sales, even though they could contribute to sales on a, blended ROAS basis, which means you're blending two campaigns and, looking at the overall ROAS. Those campaigns can help a lot as well. So I really do like AOV, and I think everyone should pay attention to it, even if you have a lower ticket brand with lower ticket products. Still think AOV is super useful. VTR, which is your view through rate. Okay, so this is going to show you how well your videos held attention. It doesn't work for single images or carousels. This is for videos only, and it's going to reveal your story strength. Okay, so I had posted 2 reels recently, and those 2 reels were about the story arc. Sorry, the triumph arc and the story arc. And so what's interesting about those is they're kind of booster campaigns that are meant to build trust. And so, using a metric like this, you can kind of gauge how well that story resonates with your audience. Okay, so if it's if the story is perceived as more relatable, stronger from a conversion standpoint, then your video is going to hold more attention, which means people, this is usually split by 25%, 50, 75, and 100%. So depending on where people fall on that spectrum, how far they watch through the video, it's going to gauge how it's going to show how engaged they were with your story and kind of gauge how strong it was. And it can be useful to help you predict your conversion rate as well, because it's going to give you an idea of how well people connected to it. It's also going to help you, it's going to guide you through your retargeting strategy, which is super important, because if you know how well how strong your story strength is, you're going to kind of know if you should keep retargeting with that story or if you should kind of let off a bit and work on a new story. So it's really interesting there to use this metric. It's kind of a newer one for me, to be honest, in the last since 2025 at least, but in the last 6 months or so I've been using it a lot, and it's been working really well in terms of guiding these stories and guiding retargeting, right? Retargeting story campaigns, just kind of getting an idea of how well my funnels are doing for my clients. And yeah, so I really like VTR. I think people should use it more, but it's definitely more of a niche metric here for those story campaigns. Then we've got CPC, which is obviously cost per click. It's going to measure your click efficiency. It's not asking, is this ad good? It's asking, is this ad good for this audience? And a lot of people get that wrong, because your cost per click is not telling you if the ad is good. It's telling you if it's good for the audience, because if it was good overall, but your conversion rate is low, right? Or your checkout rate is low, right? Or people just don't, nothing's really happening after the click, then it's not efficient, right? Something that makes it efficient is that you're getting people there, but then once you get people there, it's actually doing something. So you want to make sure that you're comparing click-through, cost per click with 2 metrics or even more than that to really try and dial in what the issue is there. So diagnosing your hole in your funnel, like your problem in your funnel, is hard. And CPC is one of those broader metrics that's, meant for experts that have really, niche campaigns. And I really, really recommend that people that use CPC for optimization, you have to be careful with it unless you know exactly what you're doing with it. It's super hard. I don't even use it half the time. But CPC is one of those, broader metrics. I would definitely stick to some of these other metrics like UCTR, frequency, and also conversion rate to just optimize. And then obviously we have CPA down here, right? So this is going to be your bottom of funnel efficiency. I spelled efficiency wrong probably. And it's going to also be your ad spend ceiling. So if your CPA is low, you're obviously going to keep scaling. And if it's higher, you're going to stop spending. So this is really, really interesting because it gives you a lot of information, like a ton, about how well your bottom of funnel is working. So your bottom of funnel is going to consist of a few things, right? You've got your bottom of funnel sales ads. You've got your cold sales campaigns. You've got your offer, and you've got your CTA, and then also your landing page and your website, right? Among a few other things in there, right? Like your product images on the website, all those little things. There's so many different variables. I couldn't possibly cover them all in one video. That video would probably be like 2 hours, but CPA is going to give you an idea of that bottom of funnel efficiency. So it's really good to monitor this. Just make sure it looks good. It's also directly correlated with your ROAS. So if your ROAS is looking good and your CPA is looking good at the same time, that's generally a normal thing. So it's really, really good to, know these metrics and even add more to your list if, these 10 here are not the ones you want to use for optimization. But basically, the reason I spent the last like 9 or 10 minutes talking about metrics here and just explaining them to you is so that you understand what we are optimizing for. So optimizing is basically taking something that isn't working and making it better in some sort of way, right? So when I say we're optimizing for conversion rate, we're changing something that will improve conversion rate with, hopefully not impacting other metrics in a negative way, right? So if you increase your conversion rate by halving your prices, right, your ROAS is going to go way down because your price is going to be so low, you're not going to make any profit. So it's important that you get these metrics right. I did have like break-even ROAS and other, metrics on here as well, blended ROAS, all these other things in here. But I really think these core 10 are useful if you're kind of 0 to 40K on your clothing brand right now per month. So I would just stick to these 10. But yeah, so next we're going to move into variables. I only have a few on here, but these are just kind of general variables again. But again, this is the concept of testing. So this isn't like the play it by this exact playbook, right? Do exactly everything I'm saying here. It's more just take these concepts and run with them for your brand and see how well you can, improve your testing process for your ads. So the first thing here obviously is the hook. It's like the first 3 seconds, or it's the first slide in a carousel, or it's, something that really stands out in your single image ad. Then we have your product presentation. So I'm going to go back up here and show you this creative. The presentation here, is it good, right? Does this capture the aesthetic, the vibe that our audience actually cares about? If it does, people are going to, put a like on it, right? Comment something. You could tell it obviously does, right? This is too pretty. Oh my God, right? Someone obviously likes this aesthetic. It's working well. So, that's a really good way to measure if your presentation is good. If you're more ATL fashion, you might have a concrete flat lay and it might just be a single image ad. That works really well too. Your on-screen text, right? Obviously, we saw that up here again. Your on-screen text is going to give you some nice information. It's the sub-subject, but it's really good to know kind of what that looks like. Music as well. These are all just, general variables that you want to test. How well is the music working, right? If people don't like the music, they're probably just not going to keep watching. So your VTR is probably going to be lower. And then, a few other things like your CTA placement. So are you using shop now or order now? Are you using, learn more versus shop now versus sign up, right? There's a lot of different CTAs. And then also like what type of CTA are you using? Where are you putting, that's the type of CTA. Where are you putting the CTA, right? So are you putting it as a button? A lot of people like to put the button, or are you putting it in the, the caption, or are you putting it in the creative itself? That placement actually does make a difference. And I have experimented a lot with putting CTAs actually in creatives, and it can help a lot because sometimes all you need is to say, hey, can you guys please subscribe to my YouTube channel, right? And that'll actually get me a few subscribers versus, just writing in the description, can you guys subscribe to my YouTube channel? Right? So CTA placement actually does matter in terms of getting people to do something. So, after they were just on an emotional roller coaster from a story, campaign, and you have a CTA in the video that they've been watching for the last 5 minutes that says, can you please sign up to email and SMS to learn more about this story and how it's impacted more people, then they're probably more likely to do it than if it just says sign up with no context at all other than the fact that they're signing up for something, right? They don't know if it's free. They don't know what it is, right? So you want to make sure that you include, some context about your placement as well. So, this is a super important one that's very, very overlooked. And then obviously the length of your creative and how many slides you have in a carousel is really important as well. This will give you an idea of, is your video too long? Is it too short? Right? How many times do people rewatch it? Stuff like that's super important to know as well for a bunch of different metric reasons. Creative concepts. So this is a very broad topic that I'm not going to cover all in this video, but this is a variable that is super duper important and more of kind of the last step to testing ads. So we're going to talk about this in a second, but also some more generic stuff here like ad copy, right? So your caption, your headline, your primary text, anything in the video too, it kind of goes along with on-screen text. Your offers, right? Everyone knows what an offer is. It's a discount, it's an incentive, it's the actual just standard product at its price point. That's an offer itself. And then we have things like the landing pages, right? So when people click, the link or whatever, where are they going to? Are they going to your Instagram profile, right? If it's a visit Instagram profile ad, or if it's, going to your website to buy something, is it an email and SMS sign up? All these things matter, right? I've had a guy who had kind of a really grunge streetwear brand, and his email and SMS landing page was different than anyone else in the niche, anyone else in the industry. So what we actually did was inspired this new strategy for email and SMS signups. It was a giveaway with a spinning wheel. And so what you had to do, it was an omnisend wheel. So what you had to do was you would click sign up to email and SMS, and the creative was basically saying get a chance to win free stuff if you sign up to email and SMS. And that was a great incentive to get everyone on there. So what happened was they would click this link and they would get to this landing page, and it would be this kind of wheel of fortune, and they would click spin. As soon as they entered their email and their phone number, they'd get 2 spins. And we kind of rigged it so no one ever won any free stuff, but they would win like 10% off, 15% off, 20% off. They would never win the actual free stuff, but they thought they would, right? They thought they would. And that's marketing for you right there, right? We got people's emails, we got their phone numbers, they consented to marketing. So we were able to blast, 15,000 people, qualified buyers who already had discounts, kind of in their hands now. They were ready to buy something. And so for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, we absolutely killed it with that little landing page there, and nobody else was doing that in the industry. So that's why a landing page is important. It can dictate how well your conversion rate is, stuff like that. So now I just kind of want to talk about process, right? Testing process. So this is top to bottom. I would always start with the hook, right? If the hook is not working well, the rest of it doesn't really matter because they're not going to get to the CTA. They're not going to watch the rest of the content, and they're surely, you're not going to be able to test the concept of the creative. So it's surely not going to be, that big of a deal. And none of this will be a big deal if you can't even get the hook right. So make sure your hook is actually good. Okay, that's step one. Make sure the hook is good. If the hook is working, if people are watching past 3 seconds in a video or scrolling to like slide 3 of a carousel, something of that nature, then you just need to figure out where the problem is in your content, right? Are people going all the way to the end? Are they rewatching the video? Are they actually getting to where you want them to go? Like, when do they leave Instagram, right? When do they link click and get to your website or your landing page or wherever you're trying to put them? You have to kind of figure out where's the hole here. And then obviously the CTA. So placement and the type of CTA matters. Where is it, right? Is that working versus in another creative? Is it working better there? And then also kind of figuring out not where is it, but what is it, right? So is it shop now? But if it's an email and SMS sign up, you don't want to put shop now, right? Because that's misleading. People think they're going to spend money, but you're really just asking for their email and their phone number. They don't really want to do that, right? So you're hitting the wrong people there. And then if you get these things right, even if you don't, you're really testing a concept, right? So what type of content are you using? What type of hook are you using? What type of CTA are you using? That's the concept, right? That's the broader overview of the ad creative. What is working here and what is not? What can you what can you replicate and reuse in another creative, and what do you, need to get rid of here? So this is kind of an overview process of how I would test creatives. I did write something down here as well. You test your creative. If you achieve your goals, you're going to copy and paste that creative into a CBO. And if you test your creative and you're not achieving your goals, you basically have to retest. So figure out where the problem is and then retest and, relaunch those ads. So if you're a clothing brand owner, though, and you're wondering why testing ads takes so long, this is going to explain why. The interesting thing here is I know a lot of freelance brand scalers and, general advertisers who call themselves something else, but they really are just a freelance brand scaler. And they will say, oh, sorry, we're still testing ads, or we're testing, so that's why you're not profitable. But they're not actually testing anything. So this is why real testing takes a long time, and where they got that narrative from, that they could just tell you testing takes long, even though there really is a process to it, but they're probably not using it. So this is the campaign structure here. If you are using like a top of funnel or story-driven creative testing campaign, you're going to want to run it as an engagement campaign. And if you're more confident in the creatives and you think they actually have some substance and they're going to convert to sales or soft conversions, you're going to want to run traffic or sales here. Always use an ABO when testing. The reason I say that is because I used to test on CBO because I thought I was cooler at being different, especially as an 8-figure advertiser. People would come in, peers would come into my ad accounts and say, oh, you're running CBO for testing? I go, yeah. They go, oh, you're doing it different than everyone else. I go, yeah, I know, aren't I cool? But the truth is you don't want to scale, you don't want to test with CBO. You want to scale with CBO, because CBO is only going to put spend into the creatives that Meta likes, but we don't care what Meta likes. We care what your actual audience likes. So some creatives have a higher purpose, right? Like these top of funnel creatives that are story driven, that are designed to build trust, Meta doesn't understand that concept. So they don't really, they can't really pull from that. So when you're structuring like an engagement campaign, right, that's testing, you're not making it a CBO. When it's a sales campaign and you're scaling, you are, because you just want to put the spend on that day. You want to put it to whatever creative is going to do best. But for, testing, we want to give every ad set and every ad creative and variable a fair round of testing, right? We want to make sure it actually gets a chance to show what it can do. So ABO as always, use as many ad sets as you need. You want to put one ad per ad set, and you want to test one variable per ad set. You also want to keep your audience consistent so that you can isolate the variable performance, right? So don't do like 5 different interests and then, testing a bunch of different variables with those interests. You're just blind testing, right? You're just throwing yourself all over the place. You're spread out too thin. So you got to use the same audience and test, 2 different variables, same audience, test 5 different variables. And then that's an entire campaign right there. And then in another campaign, you could test a different audience with the same variables and see what happens. And then you can kind of test audience too. But for the most part, you're probably not going to have enough spend to test more than one audience at a time. So keep your audience consistent and just isolate your variable performance. Figure out which variables work and which ones don't. And also test your variables in different conditions when you can afford it. So I was kind of just talking about this, but I didn't realize I wrote it here. Testing cold audiences, right? Broad targeting versus warm audiences, which is retargeting, for engagement and interactions. It's interesting because cold audience, you're testing, variables that are influencing UCTR, right? If you're running a retargeting campaign and you're testing, if a story ad is working well, UCTR is going to be, it's so useless, right? It doesn't make any sense because these are not first-time viewers. This is a warm audience. They've all clicked on links before, so it doesn't really help you there. It's completely irrelevant. It was the word I was looking for. So I would definitely make sure you know what conditions you're testing in and why you're doing it, and then you're going to want to run this campaign, these ad sets, for a week or two, and the budgets. So this is kind of the timeline. That's why it takes so long. But this is a more advanced thing here. The budgets of the ad sets should be determined by past CPMs, but that's for warm ad accounts only. So if you spent, several $1,000s in an ad account, you're probably warm enough to have like an average CPM and know, if you're doing the right thing. But if you kind of know what your CPM is, you want to budget accordingly to that. So if you have a really high CPM, you're going to need to spend a lot more than 10 to 15 a day per ad set. But if if you're just a brand new ad account and you don't really know what your CPM is, 10 to 15 a day is a really good entry point. Even if you have a warm account, you still could run 10 to 15 a day, but you'll probably get more accurate results if you run higher, if your CPM is higher. So, but again, CPM doesn't always mean, I have that star here. It doesn't always mean that it's the volume of ads, right? Which is what I'm referring to there. It could be that your audience, you're hitting the wrong audience. That could always be what that means too. But for the most part, it's usually ads in your niche. So if there's a lot of ads, CPM will be higher. So you'll have to run a higher budget to actually hit the qualified people that you would hit with sales ads anyways. So that's kind of a process there in terms of structure. And this is why it takes so long to test ads, because if you do it right, you're going to do this 1 to 3 times, right? It's going to take about 3 weeks to test a bunch of variables, gather all the information, and actually know what you need to run with for a CBO, for a sales campaign, for a drop, right? To make something actually scalable. So this is a lot of information in one video. I know I'm going on 32 minutes here, but I just wanted to make this video to show you guys how to actually test ads. But not test ads, right? We're testing variables because that's what makes up an ad, and that's what really matters when you're testing an ad, because that's how you can actually scale. So let's just say you test everything right. You want to throw everything into a CBO, copy and paste the ad set into a CBO and then publish that. And, obviously increase your CBO budget accordingly so that you're not overflowing, right? If you have like 20 ad sets, you don't want to be running like $100 a day. You got to be running like $1,000 a day. So just make sure you're, doing everything right with that. But yeah, so I'm really glad I can make this video. I know it's on the longer side, but this is a really in-depth tutorial for testing metrics, testing variables for ads. And so yeah, if you got anything good out of this, please leave a like, subscribe to my channel here. I'm going to post more content soon, and I've got some really nice videos cooked up for you guys. Funnels, different types of campaign structure, optimization techniques, website tweaks, all the little things, creative development, tons and tons of stuff for marketing campaigns. So if you did find any value here, please subscribe, leave a like on the video, and then also if you have any questions, as always, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram. It'll be kind of linked in the description below. Happy to help you guys with anything you need. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.